You've probably heard the statistic that about 1 out of 3 people is actually engaged at their job. That means that 2 out of 3 people are disengaged, and that has major impacts on any organization. That's why companies in the US spend around $1 billion a year to improve employee engagement. But I'm here to tell you that is a complete waste of money. In this video, we're going to explore why that is and what to do instead to get better results faster. In order to improve employee engagement, you need to understand and address the root cause. You don't need a fancy engagement plan or an elaborate engagement strategy or even an engagement program to improve employee engagement. The next thing to understand is that people are motivated by their core needs. Now, there's all sorts of different models out there, from Maslow's hierarchy to Dan Pink's autonomy, mastery, purpose, to Tony Robbins' 6 human needs. But all of them really get at the same kind of core concepts, and that is people need to feel important, they need to feel valued, they need to contribute, they need to feel interaction with their peers, and these needs drive their motivation. So if an organization is not meeting a person's needs, they will start to disengage, and they'll go find ways to fill their needs in other ways. Now, the specific reasons why a person disengages can vary from person to person and organization to organization. So if it's one individual that's not engaged, maybe the individual isn't a fit for that organization. But if it's the organization as a whole, there's probably some underlying things in the organization that could be improved. For example, maybe the organization has processes and policies that make people feel like they can't really reach their true potential. Or maybe the company's vision and mission is not clearly communicated, or it doesn't exist, so people don't feel like they're contributing to something larger than themselves. So the first step to truly addressing issues with employee engagement is to understand what those root causes are. And then once you do that, there's actually 2 ways that you can start to fix things. One is that you can just change the perception. Sometimes it turns out that what's wrong is not actually those elements of the organization, but just the perception, and maybe something with communication. And I'll give you a great example. One of my clients is a nonprofit that hosts camps for kids with cancer, and they had some employee engagement challenges. When we measured it, the volunteer engagement started off at about 30%. In a matter of weeks, we were able to increase their engagement to 100% just by sharing some information from one of the families that attended the programs about how the volunteers impacted their lives. We were able to do this because the organization already had a strong purpose. But what was happening was the volunteers were losing that connection to that purpose. So all we had to do was reconnect them through some communication, and it changed their perception about why they were there and what their role and responsibility should be. But for most of the people I work with, and probably for most of the organizations out there, the right thing to do is probably to dig a little bit deeper, to actually change some of the way things work in your organization. Now, I know this sounds a little complex and challenging, but like I said in the beginning, you have to fix the root cause or the symptoms are going to come back, and you're going to end up wasting a ton of time, energy, and money on a program that's just not going to work. If you know the right approach to addressing these things in your organization, they don't have to be that time-consuming or expensive. They can even cost less than your standard employee engagement program. If you'd like to learn more, you can check out some of our other videos where I'll teach you the specific order that you need to address things in your organization and tips for doing that efficiently and effectively. You can also reach out with the contact information listed on our website. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll link that information in the description below. Until next time, thanks for watching.